Hello and welcome to U-Report. This is that show that young people use to talk about issues that are affecting their communities, amplify their voices and their concerns, and we have the privilege of sharing that with you again this week. My name is Marcus.
My name is Melissa.
On the show today, we talk about the Children's Act.
Yes.
Did you know it exists?
Yeah.
What is it? Who is in charge of it? Joining us on the show this evening, there's a member of parliament.
Yes, we have a lawyer.
We have a lawyer, legal expert in children's law. And we also do have a civil servant from the government that will be engaging in interesting discussion about the Children's Act. But first...
Really exciting guests, and we are so excited to hear about them.
Oh, yes.
Yes. But first, we are going to hear from our U-reporters to see what they have to say about the topic.
In human rights, there are certain categories of people which are referred to as vulnerable or need extra protection from the people who possibly offend them or come against them. So children are weak, they can't speak on their own sometimes, or unless a platform is organized maybe by NGOs or people concerned. So I think it's so pertinent to protect children from anything that would infringe on their rights.
My take on corporal punishment is that I don't advise it to be in schools. And I think those teachers who force kids into that kind of corporal punishment should be maybe suspended, or because it's not good for someone's health.
Punishment is a form of rehabilitating, a form of teaching someone a lesson, but corporal punishment is going beyond teaching someone a lesson and intentionally inflicting pain.
My take on corporal punishment, I may say it is relative because it would depend on what the person has done. But in my own view, I wouldn't think that it would be a better option to take corporal punishments maybe on children, because it really gives them a bad impression of how they are brought up, and it brings about like something which is wrong with their mind in future after they have grown up.
Every day, about 1,000 children are newly infected with HIV. Most of them are born in sub-Saharan Africa. In order to reach an AIDS-free generation, we must get to 0 new HIV infections. How do we get to 0? Test mothers and babies and give them the medicines they need. Treat and counsel those living with HIV, and also focus on prevention. Let's get to 0.
Welcome back to U-Report. It is always an extreme pleasure to get to hear from our U-Reporters and see what amazing, insightful things you all have to say. It's absolutely wonderful. And you know, the Children's Act, which we're talking about today, it's being amended. Marcus, did you know that?
I didn't know, and today I'm thankful we have a legal expert, because I'm curious exactly what amendments are being made, by who, when are they due, all of that we discuss on the show today.
Exactly.
You two can take part in the conversation. I'm going to give you the short or quick version if you have access to the internet. Go to www.U-reportUG. Now, if you have a mobile phone, here's how you go about becoming a U-reporter. Melissa?
Yes. You are going to SMS JOIN to 8500, and then you are going to let your voice be heard, and we look forward to listening to it.
Here are a few more voices on the matter of the Children's Act.
It is important to protect those children, in that they are the future generation of tomorrow. And the second thing is you protect them in order to avoid harm to their bodies.
As I started saying earlier, that those children are the future generation. In time to come, myself will have died, and others will also die. But those are the people who will cause a change. If like a child has been treated brutally, maybe extremely bad, at the end of the day, he or she will have to revenge as time goes on. He said, I was treated badly, I have to do the same. If we protect our children, this will cause them to have room to attend or complete their education, and sometimes be helpful. The reason as why some children drop from schools because they are treated badly, and sometimes they end up running out of their families. You find we have some street children, yet they have their parents because of that bad treatment.
Yeah, though the government
tries to have caning, but it still exists in school and it is part of corporal punishment. Another way is that students are given hose and shlashers to carry out garden work, which is also very much of corporal punishment.
My name is Kyomakechi Dennis. I'm 17 years old. I am totally blind, but my mind is not blind. Very many people are blind about the disabled. Me is the living example that disabled can do a lot. A blind person can use a computer, though he or she cannot see. I am moving together with the world because disability is not inability. It is not inability.
Welcome to U-Report. My name is Melissa, and today we are talking about the Children's Act. What is it? What does it entail? And what does it mean for our communities? Well, fortunately for us, we have 3 wonderful guest speakers here today to tell us a bit about it. Can you please introduce yourselves and tell the audience about yourselves? And just so you seem more comfortable, tell us something you like to do in your free time.
Yes.
Interesting. You want to know everything? You are sure?
Just one.
Well, I'm called Mondo Chateka. I'm Assistant Commissioner for Youth and Children Affairs, working with Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development.
Thank you very much, Melissa and everyone. I am Ruth Acheng, a Member of Parliament for Kwale District, which is in northern Uganda, Lango Sub-Region.
Thank you, Melissa. My name's Slivia Nambilu Mukasa, an advocate, and I work with Center for Justice and Innovation on the Justice for Children program of the Justice and Order sector.
Okay.
That's long. I got lost at the justice part.
Justice for Children program.
So we have some diverse voices here to share with us today. So first of all, what is the Children's Act?
The Children's Act is a law which came into place in 1996, way back. We are at the point of reviewing this act. This act regulates everything that can be done and what cannot be done on children. It's a framework that provides for all the things that we can do and the things that we cannot do. And I was told that in this program we shall focus more on the review of the Children's Act. And why review? We review because we noticed that there are some gaps here and there that have facilitated people to continue abusing our children. And we are saying that nobody has a right to abuse our children. Okay. So that's the Children's Act.
So let's Ruth, could you help us define?
Sometimes you can call it Chapter 59 of the laws of Uganda.
Do you two want to add anything to that?
I think what I'd be curious to hear from the legal perspective is, how does the law define a child?
The law defines a child as a child who is under 18 years of age.
And Marcus, you are not a child.
Well, my mom still calls me her baby, so I guess. All right. So the law says a child is anybody under the age of 18. So let's go back to Mr. Mondo's comment about a review, and I'll ask Ruth to tell us why a review. Why do we need a review?
Okay. As he has already stated that Children's Act is a law which came into existence in 1996 to ensure that children are protected from abuse and exploitation, all those things. As Parliament and as Uganda Parliamentary Forum for Children, we looked into the law and we realized the gaps, that there are gaps in the law.
Could you give us an example of these gaps? Just one example for it.
Okay, one example is that in Children's Act, it talks into detail about the rights of children, which is okay, but it doesn't go and talk more on the protection. How do we protect our children against abuses and exploitation? And then when you talk about child protection, it is not only about the right. Right is just one component of the what? Of the child protection. You must have the right aspect, that children's right being implemented, they are realizing it, they're not being infringed on. And then we also look at when a child has been abused, what do you do?
So now I have a question, because when a law is put into place or amendments, there's usually something that caused it to come
something
about.
that causes the...
Why now? What has caused these amendments to be reviewed, to be looked over?
Can I suggest we come back to that one, because I suspect that we have to go to a break. Now remember, if you would like to become a U-reporter, text the word JOIN from your mobile phone to the number 8500. It's absolutely free, and we'd love to hear from you because your voice matters. Also, if you can go to your mobile phone and your mobile phone can access the internet, go to www.U-reportUG. Get involved in the conversation because your voice matters. We're right back after this.
My name is Omara Daniel. I'm 18 years old. The people, when they see the lame person, they think it got nothing to do. You see me today sitting on a wheelchair, but I'm schooling also. I do like basketball. Playing basketball make me feel happy with my friends. The disabled people, don't sit down and think you are lame, you can't do anything. You can make the world shine.
Welcome back to Your Report. My name is Marcus. Today on the show, we're talking about the Children's Act, and we're focusing on the ongoing amendments to the Children's Act. In the studio with us is Sylvia from Children's
Justice for Children
Justice for Children program, Mr. Mondo, and we also have Ruth, a member of Parliament. And just remind me of that committee you serve on. It's a Children's...
Uganda Parliamentary Forum for Children.
Uganda Parliamentary Forum for Children. Now, just before we went to the break, Melissa had a question that she asked, and I'd like us to go back to that.
Yes. I was asking, what was the impetus for the amendments for the Children's Act now?
Okay, thank you, Marissa. Thank you, Marcos. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, this law came into place in 1996. Since then, a lot of water has passed below the bridge. There are lots of things that have changed, including having other international instruments, having a number of protocols that I don't want to go into during this, this interview. And we also notice that a lot of abuse, despite the existence of the law, have been happening. Every day, or even before I open the newspapers, I know there is an abuse of certain kind. And so,
horrible stories.
As Ugandans, we thought that it's important for us to revisit the law and make it more biting, make it more responsive, make it felt by the people to ensure that our children are protected. Because we cannot continue hearing about abuses every day you open, every time you listen to the radio.
You say that despite the existence of the law, abuses did continue.
Yes.
So I'll direct the question to Ruth. Does that mean that implementation has been poor, or there's been a law with no channels for implementation?
Thank you very much, Marcus, for that question. I would say yes, fine. We have come up, as Parliament of Uganda, we've come up with so many laws. But when you go into the detail about how it is being implemented, there are also gaps in the implementation of this law, which, for instance, for our children, which makes children at the end of it be abused. But in this particular one of the Children Act, why we want it amended, we realize that in the implementation, when the law is now being enforced, we realize that there are gaps, there are important critical issues which were not captured in the law. So we want it captured in the law.
So that then, at implementation, you have no gaps.
So that when we go and do our oversight roles as Parliament, we've already closed up or concluded on the issue of gaps in the law. Then we just now monitor the gaps in the implementation. But I do agree with you that there are also gaps in implementation.
Now, I have a question. If it was put into place in 1996, regardless of the gaps, there was already a written policy legislation put into place, yes? So now, if the implementation was poor in 1996, what has changed in 2012?
In this particular law, when you look at it, the previous law did not address the preventive and intervention aspect.
Okay.
It don't address the better protection by the system. So this law is trying out on prevention from the local grassroots. It is making, when you realize the previous law was talking about you have a duty to protect the child.
Yes.
This one is mandatory.
Mr. Mondo, I've heard someone say that the law says a lot about prevention, duty, and all these things, but it says nothing about the obligations of a child.
Yes.
Is that one of the loopholes?
Just wants to.
Okay, yes. As far as Children's Act Cap 59 is concerned, when you look through it, it has clearly spelled out the rights of the child, but it has not included the
responsibilities of a child.
Responsibility of the child. So that one is also one of the gap which we've also captured.
So that means that if children refuse to go to school, there will be punitive measures or corrective measures within the law to address that.
And we'll address that
when
we come back. Okay? So again, if you've been following, SMS joint 8500. It's free across all networks. Doesn't matter which network you're on. SMS us, get involved in the conversation, make your voice heard, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
My name is Kyomakechi Dennis. I'm 17 years old. I am totally blind, but my mind is not blind. Very many people are blind about the disabled. Me is the living example that disabled can do a lot. A blind person can use a computer, though she or she cannot see. I am moving together with the world because disability is not inability. It is not inability.
Welcome back to U-Report. My name is Melissa, and I am being joined by our wonderful panelists. We're talking about the Children Act. And Marcus, you had a question regarding
yes,
the Act?
my question was about the children's obligations, and I think Honorable Ruth Aching answered it superbly. But being a member of Parliament, and maybe this question also goes to you, Mr. Mondo, something like a children amending an act doesn't happen over the weekend, over a soda and some chips. So how far have we come, and how far do we have to go?
It has been a long journey. We have taken over 2 years trying to consult widely, including consulting the children themselves. How do they feel about certain parts within the Act? And some people out there may say, how do you consult children?
I was just about to ask that question.
Because some people think that children are a blank page. Children are not a blank page. Give them a chance, they'll participate, and they'll participate very meaningfully. They know what concerns them, they know what they want. I'll give an example of some of the issues that have been extremely contentious. One of them has been the issue of adoption, and the other has been the issue of corporal punishment. Should we continue giving leeway for people to administer corporal punishment on our children, sometimes to the extent of killing them? Like about 2 days ago, a child was killed in Kabale because she had stolen about 7,000 shillings. Should we continue having it? In the Amendment Act, in the Amendment Bill, we are proposing a total ban of corporal punishment to children in all settings, in schools, in the homes, in the community, and everywhere. But this has been contentious, and I know it will continue attracting some debate because we are at the level now where it has been taken to Cabinet. From Cabinet, it is going to Parliament.
You have to come back to
and,
Parliament.
Parliament will discuss all the amendments and
so we're not there yet, but we've left.
I have a quick question.
We've left, and I must add that we are at the tail end of it. We have come a long way. Where we are, now we are almost there. Before the end of this year, we must have this in place.
So I know that it is contentious to say we are banning all corporal punishment, absolutely from the home to the school.
Yes.
Now,
because it has been abused when we have given a leeway that you can administer some kind of people have outdone it, they have overdone it, they have killed children, they have maimed children. Every day you hear about these nasty stories, and we cannot wait and say people continue killing our children.
So now I know a flip side to add to the contention would be the punishment administered to those that gave out corporal punishment. So the teachers that still give a chiboko.
We are proposing 3 years.
The proposed amendment is 3 years. Let me come back to the legal perspective. Is 3 years fair? If I maim a child for life, is 3 years
But not even maim. I mean, corporal punishment is just inflicting harm.
Okay,
So
let's say,
maybe I just slap my
let's say I
child,
haven't really even maimed the child. Is 3 years
they refuse to
fair
do their
on
chores.
either end of the scale?
Fairness depends on the circumstances of a case, and that's why we have judicial officers. The case will be presented before them, and they will look into the mitigation and the circumstances, and I know they have the discretion to give the appropriate sentence, but guided by the law.
So if I slap my child for not doing their chores and for speaking back to me, I may be able to go to jail.
You may be cautioned.
Depending on the circumstance.
Okay.
But if I can add very quickly, we have also proposed within the amendment alternative
discipline.
You know, you don't have to beat. I can say you are not going to watch TV. That's punishment enough to a child. But you are not beating, you are not maiming. I can say, you know, you are going to sit in the sitting room alone for 5 hours.
Yes. So let's find out exactly what happens when the law or when these amendment proposals are brought back to Parliament. Very briefly, what happens in Parliament?
Thank you very much for that question. As I speak now, we're also doing something about it. As Uganda Parliamentary Forum for Children, we're already lobbying with the chairperson of the cabinet to prioritize it and bring the amendment parts of the law so that it is discussed and concluded at the cabinet, and then it is forwarded to Parliament. When it is brought to Parliament, and what we're already doing, we are already lobbying with the committee on gender, where children fall under. And also, we are also lobbying already with the Committee on Social Services, which also has a lot of input in the act as it will be amended. So when it is brought to the floor of Parliament, we shall support it, we shall discuss it, and pass it for implementation.
It sounds very promising. Now, Sylvia, one of the things that I'm sure is controversial is criminal punishment and children.
Yes.
Is that one of the things addressed in these amendments?
Yes.
Can you give us an example of some of the areas where this is being refined?
First of all, we want to understand that the law says the age of criminal responsibility is 12 years. So
12.
Not 18.
12 criminal responsibility. Until a child makes 12 years, you can't hold them liable for any criminal act.
So an 11-year-old steals money, they get treated from that 12-year-old.
There is a way they'll be handled within the community, but they will never be charged. For example, or they appear in courts of law. Then this law is also looking at it is outlawing this sentence for the children.
The children.
Those that are below 18 and below. So, and then also it provides kind of lenient way of helping the children to reform without being serious with the serious punishments. So they're looking at aspects of diversion, caution, community service, that kind of system that can turn around the child than making them more criminals.
Kind of rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation methods. And then also it is looking at the period the child will stay under custody, for example, or on remand, in the remand home. Originally, the old law was saying 6 months for capital cases, say murder, robbery. So a child should not stay beyond 6 months. It is now reducing it even further to 3 months. That is the proposal in the new law.
Wow. Well,
so, and then for the other child who was charged with a minor offense, theft of a chicken and all that kind of thing, they are reducing it from the 3 months to 45 days. So now this is putting better responses, even for the system actors, to ensure that they fast track these children's cases.
Well, I guess only time will tell us if these amendments will bring forth the desired results. But I think the one thing we can confidently say to young people and children is that their government and their leaders do care for them, and that there is active steps being taken to make sure that they live healthy and productive lives as citizens of this country. Now, you too can be a productive citizen by going to your mobile phone right now.
Yes.
Pick it up, go to messages, type the word join and send it to 8500. Become a U-reporter today. Tell us what you see in your community, because your voice actually does matter. And if your mobile phone can access the internet, go to www.U-reportUG and join the conversation, take part in the polls, and we'll be talking to you next week. Thanks for watching from Melissa and myself and the team at U-Report. Thanks for watching.